Welcome inside the Broncos studio. I'm your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez, alongside lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla. Day 13 of training camp is done, and we saw the Broncos back in pads on Wednesday. We saw some good work on the field and some work against the run, too.
Yeah, that was a early focus, I thought, in the team period was the running game. Saw J.K. Dobbins, saw R.J. Harvey get some work, and it continues to be a point of emphasis, the run game. We heard Joe Lombardi talk after practice and say that they've got a lot of good options. We've heard Sean Payton talk about that competition. So we'll see kind of how that all sorts out. Obviously, 2 more preseason games to go, but it was on display again. There's not a ton of throwing the ball, especially for the first team offense on this Wednesday, but a lot of good work in the run game.
Yeah, the depth of the running backs is very key, and Joe Lombardi did mention they like every single guy in the room. It's not necessarily a bad problem to have because you want to have your selection. Each guy just brings something different.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sean Payton kind of ran through that after the 49ers game, whether it's the power, the elusiveness. Some of these guys have a little more experience pass blocking. There's a lot of different traits. We did see all the running backs work on pass blocking drills on Wednesday, and so that's certainly an emphasis and something that they want everyone to be able to do. It's, to some degree or another, but it'll be a tough decision down the line.
Well, I know the focus for the defense is really being able to stop the run. Defensive coordinator Vance Joseph did mention that the Arizona Cardinals not only ran the ball very well last season, but against Kansas City in their first preseason game, he's like, that's something that's going to be a really good test for this defense.
Yeah, and joint practice on Thursday, right? It'll be a second time that we get to see the Broncos against another team. I think the run defense has been good for the Broncos, and certainly they took a step last year compared to 2023, made it an emphasis to get better in that area, would expect them to continue that high level of play in 2025, and we've seen that on display so far in training camp. And I know that there was that early touchdown against San Francisco, and Vance Joseph actually said, listen, I kind of like that it showed us some adversity, right? And that we had to figure out how do you respond to this, because in a game, all it takes is one coverage breakdown, somebody slipping, a missed assignment, and all of a sudden you can be trailing. And I think back to the game against the Raiders last year when Brock Bowers has that long touchdown early in the game. Okay, now the Broncos defense has to find a way to respond after being in an early hole. So he kind of liked the adversity the Broncos faced against the Niners, but certainly against the Cardinals, the run defense will be part of that.
Well, he did mention that's what training camp is for. It's for you guys to kind of learn how to bounce back from that adversity and bounce back quickly. And I think that's something that's a good focus point. Joint practices are always fun because he sees that the leadership really kind of comes about. And Jonathon Cooper is one of those leaders.
Yeah, Vance Joseph on Wednesday called him the fire starter for the Denver defense. I said, hey, has Jonathon Cooper taken steps over the last couple of years? And he said, he's always been good. Apparently, he said, I've said it like 83 times. Nobody's listening, apparently.
We got you, Coach, this time. We got you.
We got you. Jonathon Cooper is a guy that, one, he stood out in practice. And it's kind of a quiet standout, and then it's not going to be, obviously, it's not the interception that PS2 is going to have down the field. And maybe Nick Bonito, when he comes off the edge, the bend is a little bit more visible. But Jonathon Cooper, every day, there's 1 or 2, at least, plays that kind of stand out to you. And on Wednesday, it was a potential sack when they're going up against the first team offense on one of the few passing plays. Yesterday, he flashed several times, I thought, including a couple of tackles for loss that would have been a loss in a game situation. But yeah, Jonathon Cooper is a guy that his intensity, his consistency, he also he's got that ferociousness that he brings to the field. He is definitely a leader of this defense and a really critical part to what they do.
He's very vocal, and I think you see that not only on game day but in practices, especially with the young guys coming in. You see him giving encouragement, you see him giving kind of like that energy and really celebrating when his teammates make a good play. And another guy that does that, who's a veteran leader, is Courtland Sutton.
Yeah, I thought Courtland had a couple nice catches on Wednesday. He was the other guy that stood out to me. And obviously probably one he'd like to have back in that game against the 49ers.
Yeah.
But on Wednesday, he made one nice contested catch along the sideline, and then another one. It looked like the Broncos were working on 2-point plays, and he was able to haul in a closely contested catch from Bo Nix. So nice to see those two kind of get a couple of passes connected on today. I think 3 in total for those guys. So didn't throw the ball a whole lot, but when they did, Courtland Sutton was a frequent target.
When I spoke to Troy Franklin earlier in camp, he said that Courtland Sutton is such a key part of that wide receiver room because not only is he vocal, but he teaches the guys a lot. And they're able to pick and choose kind of what they can add to their game. And I feel like when you have that veteran presence, it's only going to make this wide receiver group, who's very young, that much better, whether it's on offense or special teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I go back to what Sean Payton said after Sutton signed his extension, which is even if Courtland never said a single word to anybody, they would get better just by watching what he does and how he operates. And so when he does also lend that vocal leadership, it's really important and, like you said, can help these young guys develop.
And it's down to just one more open practice left of the 2025 training camp, and it should be fun with the Cardinals coming to town. And as always, we have you covered with everything from Broncos training camp, so make sure you visit DenverBroncos.com.